Waiting on YouTube. Sorry about that. Squeeze this up. Good morning. Good morning, Jones, CEO of Nonprofit Solutions Matter. So excited that you all have decided to join us today on Impact Conversations. This series has been going on for the month of June, every Tuesday and Thursday, where I have been bringing to you live experts in the field in the nonprofit sector. We decided to do this because we've been talking to a number of nonprofit leaders that really were thinking about, how do we pivot? There's so much going on in the nonprofit sector. Some of these leaders have said they feel like they were under attack. What can we do differently? How can we scale? How can we really begin to think about sustainability? And so we've really been bringing you experts in the field to kind of talk about different areas that can assist you in that. So first of all, thank you, thank you, thank you for you all who have been following this series. I appreciate you. Our audience is amazing. Please continue to follow our YouTube channel, like and subscribe. We just love having the interaction with you all and bringing you this invaluable content. And the other thing is that's been so incredible is you're filling out these surveys at the end and sending those in. Our team reads those. We are responsive to you around that. So continue to feed us information on what it is that you want to see in the future. And we'll be more than happy to honor that. So, without further ado, I am so excited to bring to you today a good friend of mine. She's an amazing woman, Tita Dong, who is the founder of Impact Pro Tech. She is an incredible woman. She has done amazing things. We have been working together over 2 years now, doing a webinar series, actually, that she comes in and really talks about data. She's turned me into an incredible data geek now because when you're in fund development and resource development, it's so important that you understand data. So, without further ado, hello, Tina. How are you? Welcome.
Hi, Sharon. Thank you so much for inviting me to this conversation. Hello,
I am
everyone.
so, yeah, I am so happy to have you here today. It's long overdue for you to be here to talk to our audience. So, Tina, start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got involved in the nonprofit sector, and what you're passionate about in this field.
Yeah, I'll start with that. My passion is nonprofits. I have been in the nonprofit space for over 30 years, 25 of those years professionally. Um, and it's for me, they are the backbone of our society. They represent the safety net of all that we cherish about the communities we live in. And so whatever I can do to give back, I will. However, I can use my particular set of skills to help, I will. And that particular set of skill is fundraising. So about 25 years in the nonprofit space as a development director, chief development officer, et cetera. And along the way, I learned a few things. I worked at a wide variety of organizations from small, local to large, global, right? And
Wow.
everywhere I went, there was always one thing that they couldn't quite get right and that I always had to fix every single time. And I thought, well, now that I have a chance to have my own company, I thought, well, what should this company be about? And I thought it's to fix that one thing. And that
Hmm.
one thing is data.
Yeah.
The lack of data, the lack of storage of that data in a usable format, and then the expertise and ability to analyze the data and leverage it for really effective strategies beyond fundraising even. And so I created my company Impact Pro Tech with a signature tool which is called Pro Distiller. It automates the data mining process for individual giving pipelines, and it helps nonprofits identify the best prospects from their pipeline. Because if you have a small team, you just want to focus on the best ROI producer, right? And so my tool basically does that. It cuts the time down from like months to literally hours. And so I love freeing up my clients' time so they can get on with the business of their mission, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's amazing. To take what you've learned and the experiences over so many years and then parlay that into a business that is solving kind of that one pain point that
Mhm.
you found across organizations.
All of
And
them.
many of them I think many of them don't even know the importance of having clean data, data that's usable. You know, I work with a number of organizations that operate off of Excel spreadsheets, still some with Rolodex, and not really understanding how valuable having the information in a centralized place that is not only just housed there, but you teach them what, once they have this data, what to do with that data. Walk us through that.
Hmm. Yeah, for me, I always say that I have a data-driven approach to fundraising, and to me it means the data always shows you the way. So if you
Mm,
look at a donor's giving history with your organization, you can tell a lot about their relationship with you. When did they come in? Like even if you don't, as a consultant now, I don't even have to know that much about the history of the organization. I can tell when these people came in, why they came in, and why they're still not engaged. I can just tell by the data.
yeah,
I can, help them understand what is going to be the most valuable data because not all data is worth collecting, first of all. And there are all these huge data clearinghouses out there that just inundate nonprofits with data. And so you don't need to worry about all that data. There's just a few very specific sets that will immediately jumpstart your fundraising program. And so I help them with that, right? Like just don't, they get overwhelmed, right? With
they
too much.
do.
Yeah.
True.
And so I just help them focus. And it's just the beginning, right? I call it acupuncture versus Swedish
Mm,
massage. So you pick that one little point and you just unlock it with a little acupuncture and everything releases. And then they start running, right? Nothing gives me greater pleasure than giving my clients the skills they need to just move on without me, right? Which is
yeah.
probably not the best business model, but I love it. It brings me a lot of joy.
No, and I think it's a great business model because, as you can attest, many of those that have found great success using your tool refer you to other,
True.
because CEOs talk to CEOs in this space. And so, our theme across this whole impact conversations has been stronger nonprofits, bolder impact. You sit right at the intersection of fundraising, strategy, and most importantly, technology. When
Mhm.
those three things align, what becomes possible for organizations that wasn't before? What does bolder impact look like when tech is done right?
Well, it starts with strategy. Yes, tech is in my company name, but impact is the first thing in my
Ah,
company name. And impact comes from strategy. And once you have the right strategy, you know what impact you're trying to achieve, you know what you need to accomplish, you know what data you need, then you can look at the tech. And I find oftentimes nonprofits think in the opposite direction. They lead
mm,
with tech. Right? They get sold the bells and whistles and they get excited by it. And then they have this amazing tool and they don't know what to do with it. Literally working on that issue right now with a client. They decided to bring in AI. I know we're going to talk more about AI later, but they brought in this AI tool, but their data wasn't clean. Their data wasn't ready. And they didn't know what to
um,
do with they didn't have a strategy per se to use the
yes,
tool. And so now the tool's been languishing, sitting unused for the last few months. Um, and just basic to me, that's like money out the window. It's just literally
yeah,
flying out the window with no return on that investment. And we're trying to get them there. We're working on it, but things happen and things get delayed. So I always say lead with strategy, know what you're
mm-hmm,
trying to accomplish, know what you want to do with your donors. And you can't boil the ocean, right? Do you want to just focus on major gifts? Do that. That looks really different than if you're working with a massive database and you're doing really big, small dollar giving campaigns, right?
yeah,
Like those are very different strategies. So know what you're trying to accomplish and bring in an expert, first of all, to help you if you don't have one in-house. I think that's key.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
many of them don't. So
They
it's
don't.
really important to lean into that.
Yeah.
Where's the biggest untapped opportunity that you see that they're just not focusing in on?
Well, the biggest thing that's looming is the great wealth transfer that's coming up in the next few years. These are the boomers who are aging out, if you will,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they eventually are going to transfer their money to a new generation.
Absolutely.
And the boomers were the current largest generation in terms of population, like size,
Sure.
numbers of
Yeah.
people. And all of that money is going to get transferred into a smaller generation. And so it's going to get super concentrated, right? And so understanding how to engage with these people early, like do it now. Don't wait until they have the money. Donors are not ATM machines. You can't just sit there and wait for the money. You got to go out and talk to them, figure out who they are, find ways to engage them. There's always some way to engage a donor in your work, inviting them into your work without involving the conversation about cash. So do that now. This is your opportunity. This is the window. And if you miss this window, you'll find it again. The doors will be wide open in a few years, but then everybody's going to be running through it. But the
Yeah.
smart nonprofits are going through the window first.
Absolutely. I was in a on a panel just last week, and it was interesting that many of those organizations, it was like 70 or 80 nonprofits
Mm,
on this call, and they did not have a plan giving program,
mm,
nothing on their
mm.
website to
Right.
invite individuals that, or and it was just starting with education with their existing donors, and so I absolutely agree with you that across the board, I'm seeing that organizations have just not thought about this. It's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It's
Mm.
just the realization that now is the time to do exactly what you said. So you have called data the missing link. Now, I think I might have seen that on your website
Yeah.
or somewhere, in your promotional materials. And so, specifically, what is the right kind of data? And what does the right kind of data look like in an organization? And I know it's different for each organization, it's a generalization, but just
Mm.
kind of zero in a little bit to help folks that are sitting here listening to this going like, well, we have data, we have a database, we have a CRM, but what is she talking about? What are we
Yeah.
not doing right?
Yeah, well, there's two kinds of data. The first kind is low-hanging fruit. Every organization that's ever received a donation has this. The second data set is a little bit harder to grab. It's a little bit higher up in the tree. So the first data set is giving history. Everyone has it, hopefully. And I don't care. It could be in a spreadsheet. That's fine. A really
It's somewhere.
well-designed spreadsheet is better than a poorly designed CRM. So as long as you have the data about your own donors giving history to you, you can tell a lot. And then in addition, you want to enrich that data with other giving history data. These individuals, if they're philanthropic and generous, they're giving to other organizations, right? And you can access that information. Like I said, there's all these clearinghouses. There's iWave or Kindsight Now, Donor Search, Wealth Engine, Research Point. There's so many, right? So enrich your, add that layer of data to yours, and you get a fuller holistic picture of your donor because that's what you want. You want to understand, well, what else are they giving to? Are they giving to similar causes like mine? Are they giving to organizations like mine? How much are they giving to those organizations? How frequently? So you can see like, oh, well, wait, they're giving a lot more to this organization over here compared to me. Why is that? Right? It
Yeah.
points you to asking the question why. Not that you're going to go out and steal a donor from another nonprofit, because I don't believe that that's how donors work anyways, right? If you are compelling, they will give to you, right? It's
Absolutely.
not a competition. There's plenty
Yeah.
of resources to go around. So understanding, their philanthropic history, their background, because I always say that past behavior predicts future behavior. So that data set is really rich and important to use. And that's my tool helps people analyze that data because if you have thousands and thousands of names, each individual's going to likely have hundreds of records in their entire lifetime of giving. So it's a lot to sift through. I used to have to do it manually, and a lot of people do, right? I literally just
Exactly.
stare at spreadsheets all day long, but you don't really want your most expensive staff person in fundraising to be doing that. And so my tool kind of
Exactly.
helps them do that. The
Exactly.
second set of data is harder, which is engagement. Like how active are they? How responsive are they when you send them something, when you make a phone call, do they return your call? Are they opening up that email? Are they clicking on a link? Are they volunteering? All of that, right? So tracking that is challenging, especially in a spreadsheet. You definitely don't want to track that
Mhm.
in a spreadsheet. If you have a good CRM, there are ways to do it, and it enriches again the full profile of the individual, not just their check, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that just leads me, and I wasn't even going to talk about this, but you and I worked on a project. I'm not going to say the client's name. I think it was a year ago, and I want to just brag on your product, like what you have. Like you took their database, and you were able to identify the giving history of the donors, and then you layered over that where those donors were giving larger gifts to
Hmm.
other organizations, like millions of dollars to
Hmm.
organizations, naming opportunities to organizations, and they had a history of giving to this organization we were working with, but not at
Yeah.
that level.
Yep.
So that is a really key distinction, I believe, in what you do, because then you followed that by coming in and doing a training for the team so they could understand how to read the data,
Mhm.
how to use the data. You were able to show them, some lapses and some stewardship, like a gift came in, but they were never thanked.
Yeah.
Like, yes, they got the tax receipt, but, just really showing, not in an accusatory way, but showing them and guiding them and how to really take this data and use it, have it work for them. Um, I just am so happy, one, that you have this tool, and I want everyone, you'll get from Tina's connections and contacts at the end, but you need to really reach out to her and have her even just do a basic screen of your database, because you will be blown away with the layer of data, how you can use it, and really help propel you to looking at, I think you called it hidden gems.
Yep.
Talk about the hidden gems for
The
us.
hidden gems. I mean, it's the natural outcome of a data mining, right? Is finding
Yeah.
that gem. And I always get this question a lot from clients like, I need new donors. I need new donors. I need new names. Give me a prospect list. It's like, well,
Yeah,
what
go
have you
and buy
done?
one. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, what have you done with the donors you already got?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like if you don't even have the muscle to build relationships with your current donors, it would be a waste of time and effort to bring in new names, right? Let's fix the house first, and then
Yeah.
bring in the guests, right? And so it's so important. Time and time again, I always invariably find like amazing hidden gems. Like even my current client, like even they're not active fundraisers, but in the past they had been. And I went into their database like, oh my God, you had this person? And I could see they only gave one gift, and I could see that it was because there was an event. There was a gala, somebody invited
Um,
them to some gala and they contributed, and that was it. And this person had huge capacity, but then unfortunately that person passed away recently, in fact, very recently.
mm,
I thought, oh, like if they had spent their time cultivating, just to your point, like if they had spent their time cultivating this individual over time, maybe they would have been in the plan giving, estate. So I think there's a lot to be surfaced, first of all, from the existing database. And that's, oh, sorry, I think, Sharon, are you still there? There we go.
yeah. Yeah. You were talking about
Sorry.
if they had continued to
Yeah.
cultivate the individual over
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Sorry, you cut out for a minute. But yeah, I always ask my clients, let's start there. Let's look at what you have. And if you don't have it, great. There are other strategies to find new donors. And sometimes you do it in parallel, right? But look inside first. I think that's key.
Yeah, let's shift the conversation and talk about AI. And it's interesting because I was like, I don't even know what question to ask about AI. Just like because I hear so many, negative things about it, some positive, some people are using it, some people don't know how to use it. Just
Yeah.
gonna open it up and have you kind of give us some of your wisdom around AI, starting wherever you want to start.
Yeah. For me, AI is a tool. It is not the answer. And like any tool, in the right hands, it can create a work of art. In
Mm,
the wrong hands, it could create nothing very pretty and or could be damaging. So just because I have a chisel doesn't make me, uh, somebody who can build the statue of David. Like
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
doesn't work that way. And the AI is exactly the same, whether it's for, generating content, whether it's analyzing data, whatever it might be, for building something, it has to go back again to what you want to do, your strategy, your impact, start with that, and then figure out the data you need because AI doesn't work unless it has good data. And so therefore, the other challenge with that is what is your
Getting the
data?
data.
Because
Yeah.
if your data is very sensitive, my current client is a healthcare organization. Their data is very sensitive, right? So I can't use AI on certain things. And so it's really important to understand the information that you have, the data that you have, and how you want to protect it, first of all. And then use the AI. But again, if you don't have a domain expert to judge the output, how will you know it's good? How will you know
Mm,
if you've never done fundraising and you tell Claude or ChatGPT, give me a fundraising strategy? How will you know that that strategy is sound? Right? And I test it all the time. Like I test it against my own tool because I do worry that sometimes AI might replace my tool, but it's not there. And that's only because I know I am a domain expert. I know how to judge the quality. And so you got to have that. You got to have the strategy. You've got to have an expert, domain expert, not necessarily a tech expert, right? You can bring in a tech expert. So
mhm.
that is so important. So understand that basic framework. Um, but it can be helpful, right? I do use it. It saves me an enormous amount of time and in certain things, but I always double check it. And for me, the most important judgment criteria is how high risk is that content? How are you going to use that data? If you're going to use that as a talking point in front of a donor, you better make sure that that is absolutely correct, that it is 100% factual. And so the higher the risk, the more human the interaction needs to be. You still there, Sharon? I didn't know if I
Yeah, this
lost
is so
you. Okay.
strange what's happening here. It's never happened before. Not sure what's
Yeah,
happening.
no worries.
So you
Uh,
said if you're using that data and you're in front of a donor, then what?
I said that the higher the stakes, right? The
Hmm.
higher the risk, then the more human input needs to be involved in the output of the AI. So whenever, for instance, I do a donor profile, a really deep, very intense profile, admit I use AI to, kind of kickstart something. I have my data, I give it, and then I ask it to look for very specific things, right? And I always ask it to cite its sources, and then I go and check. I check every single fact. So it saves me some time, but it's not going to ever replace me because even the AI admits that it makes mistakes,
It
right?
does. And I like that.
Yeah. Like
And I
but
love
you
the
have to
fact that
call it. You have to call it up. And it's like, oh,
you
why did you
do.
say that? Because that's wrong. And then it'll say, oh, you're right. Like it's not going to fact check itself, right?
Yeah, I
So
love the one that says, "Great catch, Sharon."
yeah.
So you got because I use it frequently, but you have to check. You check the sources.
Always.
You use the right prompts. And so we're not asking anyone to go out and try to master AI. You do exactly what Tina said. You hire a pro, you get a domain person, you get a person that kind of understands this to work alongside you. And it frees up your time to
Mhm.
really do keep the main thing around your mission. So as we close, Tina, talk about like how people can get in contact with you, talk about your services and what you can offer them.
Yes, absolutely. Just go to my website. I think you'll see the link at the end, impactpro.tech.
Yep,
And
I'm putting it up now as we speak.
awesome. So check out, it's a very short website, but then just call me. Give me a call, email me, link in with me. I'm happy to have preliminary brief consultations. I have free office hours because I can talk about fundraising all the time. It's only when I need to open a document or create something that it becomes a service offering, right? But if you just need some, generic general advice, I'm happy to do that. Because as I said before, nonprofits are near and dear to me. And, if I can help in any way, I am here for it.
So, our sort of core group of nonprofits are founder-led nonprofits and smaller nonprofits. So, how do they compete with the larger ones, that have the resources to do all the things that you've talked about? Where should they start?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing to be wary about with larger consulting companies is that don't always give you the best expert on their team to work with you. They send in their best person, right? But they never give you their best expert to actually work on the project.
Mm, that's a good point.
So paying attention to that, all right? And for me, for my clients, I work directly with my clients. I do bring in, people to help to
Hmm.
supplement as needed, but I am the front face person with my clients.
And I think that's so key,
Yeah,
particularly with
that's key.
smaller organizations looking
Mhm.
to, like, oh my, we could never afford her. But even just offering that initial kind of consultation to really level the playing field, if you would, so they can begin to see, how they can engage, how they can, use these tools to really help them. Because I still go back to the hidden gem. There are so many things that you currently have and you're like this hamster wheel going after grants, going after events, doing all these things, and you've not paid enough attention to the people who already give to you consistently, who already, because of that giving, have declared that they love you and they are on board with your mission. So developing strategies of how to continue to further engage them is super important. And I believe that the tools that you bring to this really allows them to see exactly what it is that they have in their database, who it is, and how they can engage them. Tina, any last thoughts that you want to leave with our audience?
No, the only parting thought is I think despite a lot of sour news about the state of fundraising and into nonprofits, everyone that I've worked with has done amazingly well, and not just because it's me, right? The fact that they've reached out to someone like me tells me a lot about who they are as an organization, and so staying positive, thinking forward, being proactive. I think that's going to take you far, right? Stop watching the news, stop reading the bad news that's out there because individually I've seen organizations do amazingly well when they go for it, they try.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule to just drop these wonderful nuggets. You had so many tweetables here that were
Good, I'm
incredible,
glad.
that we'll be, kind of sending some things out. But guys, know that you can watch the replay, share it with your networks. I think it's really important that we continue these conversations and help people to understand exactly how they can do this work. And so, with that, I want to thank each of you for being here. And Tina, hang on for a minute. I just want
Sure.
to say some closing things to you as well. So, let me kind of get out of this. Guys, we will see you.